Hello and welcome back to Whiskey Wars. My name is Sean, and tonight we're going to be reviewing Maker's Mark 46. Let's get into it. So here is our bottle for this evening, Maker's 46. And some of you may know the history of Maker's Mark, but we'll do a quick overview anyway. And at the end of this video, I will link to a video that has a more full history of Maker's Mark. But the short of it is, in the dark ages of America, people no longer wanted whiskey, and instead they wanted cheap spirits like vodka and gin. And so the reason they wanted this is because they wanted things that were easy to drink, things they could mix with all kinds of stuff. And I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, well, hey, you can mix whiskey. No, you don't mix whiskey. No, you can do whatever you want. If you pay for it, I don't care what you do. I don't mix whiskey because I think it's sacred and you shouldn't do that, but you can do whatever you want with your lives. People make all kinds of bad choices. Anyway, so the Samuels family comes along and they decide that they're not going to make cheap whiskey, which is what most people would probably go after if they're going after a cheap market. No, instead, they're going to make high quality, expensive whiskey. In fact, their marketing said, it tastes expensive because it is. So you might think, well, this is just a recipe for disaster. But no, Maker's Mark took off. Mr. Samuel's wife, she came up with the wax topper that we all know and love today. And of course, as they say, the rest is history. Now, this is not standard Makers, as you probably know. And the full name of this actually is Maker's Mark Stave Profile number 46. Now, some of you who don't know, what they have actually done is they took various different staves of various different oaks and other woods, and they put them in the barrels with the whiskey until they found a profile that they liked. And this was the 46th one. And so, thus the name. But let's get this thing poured and see how it is different than Maker's. Now, for those of you that have watched my videos that are fans of the channel, then you know that I am not that big a fan of standard Makers. So the question is this any different? I would guess that by looking at the bottle, you can probably guess how I feel. And this is my second bottle, so no, this is not a live reaction. This is not my first time trying it. For any of those that have an issue with that, that's not what we're doing here. We're trying to get an accurate description of the whiskey. So let's do that. Let's first get into the nose. All right, so a very pleasant kind of almost like a flowery note. I would say maybe like flower petals, maybe like rose petals, as well as a nice cherry note, but it's not overwhelming. There's a nice cinnamon in there as well. And of course, you're getting your hints of caramel and brown sugar. And there's a very nice kind of vanilla note in there, as well as kind of a creamy note, like a whipping cream. What this really reminds me of is like a very pleasant kind of fruity dessert. Maybe if you had like some kind of cobbler with ice cream on top of it. So if there was a cherry cobbler and then you drizzled maybe caramel, sprinkled some brown sugar on top of that, and you got your ice cream on top and some whipping cream, that's kind of what we're getting here. Yeah, so there's lots of fruity notes coming through. And one thing I really appreciate about Maker's 46 is that the nose is very balanced. Nothing is just jumping out of the glass. There's not like any particular note that just punches you in the face. All of the notes kind of allow themselves to show up equally. And so you get a very nice nosing experience. Yeah, very nice. And of course, you're getting a little bit of the barrel presence in there as well. Kind of a nice toasted oak. Little bits of char in there also, and then maybe just hints of like a peppery note. But let's give it our first sip. So what I would say hits your palate first is that cherry note, but it's not overwhelming, and you're getting little hints of cinnamon and also definitely some nice caramel notes. There is hints of brown sugar, but that definitely is kind of in the back. There's also kind of those peppery notes showing through as well. And it's all nicely balanced, just kind of like the nose. Let's go in for one more sip here and kind of focus on the finish. So real quick on the palate, on that sip, I got a little more of like a chocolatey note, and also a very nice vanilla note in there as well. And then as that works its way back to the finish, then you start to get that presence in the finish as well. So you're getting that cherry that we talked about earlier. You're getting that cinnamon for sure. And then you're getting kind of this citrusy note in there also. And then a very nice kind of milk chocolate note in the finish, as well as kind of that vanilla. And all in all those things work really well together. What I really appreciate about Maker's 46 is how balanced it is the whole experience through. From the nose, to the palate, to the finish. Everything is very balanced. Really, this is just a nice, relaxing whiskey. There's nothing that's real sharp, that's kind of pointy, jutting out. No overwhelming kind of notes that are kind of really prominent and taking over. It's really a very nice experience. You get all the little nuances of the whiskey, because nothing is kind of sharp and pointy and overwhelming. I really think this is just a superior whiskey, especially in the kind of $30 price range. Now, as far as a rating goes on this bourbon, I have to score it pretty high. I'm thinking about other bourbons that are in this price range, and I gotta say that I'm kind of comparing it to the Knob Creek, which we reviewed recently. And even though it's a very different experience, I think it's probably equally as good. So I'm going to give it the same score. I believe I gave the Knob Creek an 8 even, and so I'm going to give this also an 8. Now, of course, we will have a whiskey war with all these kind of $30-ish ones together, and so then we will see who the true king is. But until then, I'm scoring it the same as the Knob Creek, a solid 8.0. So definitely go out and check it out if you haven't yet. And folks, as always, if you have enjoyed this review, then please hit that like button. And if you're looking for more reviews like this, then please click right here for more reviews. And if you really are enjoying the channel, then you can subscribe right here. And until next time, folks, just remember, you can never have too much good whiskey.